Hey, I'm Harold, and this is Ask the Mower Guy Show. At this show, we answer your questions about lawn and garden equipment, your ATVs, your mowers, your blowers, your pumps, your compressors, your generators, all things that have an engine. Today we're going to be talking about several different things. First, we're going to be talking about clutches and how clutches can cause you problems on your outdoor power equipment and also on different motorcycles and apparatuses like that. Chain care for those clutch driven machines. Then we're going to come over and we're going to talk about trimmers, hedgers, and two-cycle equipment. Why it's important to have a straight shaft versus a curved shaft. After we're done with that, we're going to go back and I'm going to tell you why I can't just walk straight into your shop, pull off the shelf a carburetor, and give it to you. You know, nowadays, every model, every piece of equipment has a different carburetor. And I'm going to show you what those differences are. Maybe that'll help you when you come down to the lawnmower shop. So let's get started with the show. Now, I told you I was going to tell you why I can't just take a carburetor straight off the shelf and hand it to you. There's a whole bunch of different types. Let me grab a couple. What you're going to find is that carburetors are just like engines. Every single model, every single type of engine has a different carburetor system. The fuel system is very important on small engines. Come over here, I'm going to show you a couple of things. Primarily, carburetors come in a couple of different styles. The first style is called a pulse jet carburetor. A pulse jet carburetor works differently than a traditional carburetor that you see nowadays on most modern lawn and garden equipment because it relies on a small diaphragm that's on the side of the engine. So what you have to envision is that there's a tank right here that holds your gas. As your engine's running, you've got a compression stroke and then you have a downstroke. A compression stroke and a downstroke, which is pushing air in and out of the engine compartment. That movement of air actually pulses this diaphragm, which opens and closes these two flap valves. Now what will happen is over time, if you leave gas inside your carburetor, this rubber will get super hard. If you notice here on this carburetor, and I've shown you this one before in other videos, this carburetor, the rubber is almost to the point where you can't push it anymore. That's because the ethanol and other additives that they put in modern gasoline eats away at the rubbers and the plastics inside carburetors. Well, if you notice, most of the modern carburetors now have a lot of plastic components on it, which means that plastic and that rubber inside your carburetor is getting brittle. You know, it's actually getting destroyed doing what it's supposed to do, which is make your engine run. So one of the most important things that you can do when you're looking at the maintenance on your lawn and garden equipment is make sure that you thoroughly drain all of the gas that is located inside your mower, not just in your tank, but inside your carburetor. Because what will happen is on a pulse jet generator or pulse jet carburetor, this diaphragm will get plugged up. In addition to that, come a little closer and take a look here. These ports and this screen on the bottom is where all the gas has to flow into the carburetor, through that pulse, back into the main throat and into the engine. If any little bits of material get blocked up in there, it's not going to work. And if your equipment is sitting outside, it's allowed to dry, what will happen is the plastic will begin to get a varnish buildup. And if you look at this on my hand, you can see that there's a varnish starting to build on it. But what you also probably notice is I was able to go in there and break off pieces of plastic. It's not supposed to be that way. So what's happening is, over time, that gasoline is making this material brittle, and eventually, just like on this carburetor, as you can see, it made it fail. Now, in other types of carburetors, you don't have the engine pumping gas literally from the tank into the engine through the carburetor. What you have is usually there's gravity feed. Let me get another one as a good example. This comes off an older style Craftsman. And if any of you out there have this style still on your lawnmower, you're doing a great job taking care of it. But there's not very many of these left. Basically, you have a gas tank, and this gas tank holds your gas. It will flow through a fuel line into a carburetor. The gas tank, you'll always notice, is higher than the carburetor. Otherwise, the gas can't flow uphill. So it's always higher. If there's any constriction in the fuel line, what will happen is you won't get gas into your carburetor, and the carburetor won't be able to feed gas to the engine in the proper ratios. Now, when the gas goes into the carburetor, it collects inside what we call the bowl. Now, inside that bowl are several components. On the bottom of the bowl is actually the port or the screw that regulates the amount of gas that's going to go up into the carburetor. If you look really closely inside this carburetor, you'll see a brass tube going straight up into the carburetor. That is where the gas goes from the bottom part of the carburetor straight up into the air that's flowing into the carburetor and then into the engine, and it mists, and it makes that gas fuel ratio that is necessary for combustion, make the engine run. That gas has to flow from the gas tank into the carburetor, into the bowl, up that little tube, and into your engine in exact proportions, or your engine won't run. And that's the number one reason that equipment doesn't run when you go out to work on it, because you left gas in it the whole winter, used it 1 or 2 times, you got some dirt in there, and it plugged up and got junked up. If you look at this one very closely, some of the air ports on the front are plugged right up with the dirt that passed past the filter. And that's the number one problem. Dirt gets into the engine, it'll plug up these air ports. It'll also pass through the carburetor and put dirt directly into your engine, which causes premature engine wear. Now, underneath that bowl, and when I said the bowl, we're looking at this area here. If you were to take that off, what you're going to find is this. This is what they call the float. Now, the float on the carburetor does exactly what I'm doing with my finger. When it's up and full inside that bowl, all the gas stops running. As the gas goes into the engine, it slowly uses up the gas that's inside that bowl, and it will come out, allowing the gas to flow through. Basically, right here, and this is a really nasty, bad carburetor, you've got a small pin. It's called a needle. Inside the bottom here is going to be a little rubber piece, which they call the seat. Let me put that back in there. As this float pushes down, it pushes that pin up into the carburetor, and that's what stops the gas from flowing in. The pin goes up, the gas stops. The pin comes down, the gas flows. If you leave gas, or you get dirt, or you get other funk, like water, or anything else that might end up inside your gasoline, this is what happens to your needle. Now, if you come a little closer, what you're going to find, I can show you exactly what happens if you get water inside your carburetor. If you notice on this carburetor, it's got a lot of rust. It's got a lot of material buildup. Some of the holes are plugged up. This is all from your gas going bad. You got to envision that underneath this bowl right here is gas, and the gas is sitting at that level. You turn your lawnmower off at the end of the year, or any other piece of equipment, including your cart in some cases, and that gas, even though you drained all the gas out of your bowl, may still be inside, or out of your tank, may be still inside this bowl. So you really didn't take the gas out of your lawnmower. What you did was you took the gas out of the gas tank. You dumped out that. You still have gas in the line. You still have gas in your bowl. If that gas is allowed to stay inside your mower, this is what's going to happen. Now, if you notice here, you've got rust. The rust is from the water and condensation. As the materials evaporate, it's going to leave residue behind. That's the chemical additives that you find for environmental controls. It's the chemical detergents that you find to help keep your engines clean, and all the other things that are put into gasoline, in the modern gasoline. Well, as it evaporates, it leaves that residue. That residue is like a varnish, and that varnish will plug holes. But what it also does, the moving parts begin to get rust on them, and they begin to get pitted, and they don't move anymore, which means the gas won't flow through the needle and seat like I was showing you earlier, because this needle will literally get stuck. And if you look at this a little bit closer, what you're going to see is the side of this needle is actually rusted, and inside this little hole, and you might not be able to see it all the way in there, that's got rust and varnish in it too. What made this carburetor fail is just pure neglect, and I hope that doesn't happen to you. Now, there's a couple things that you can do to prevent that. One, when you're done for the year with your carburetor, what I want you to do is I want you to unscrew this little bowl and drain the gas out. If you unscrew this little brass and allow the gas to come out, you're leaving no gas inside your carburetor. That will make a big difference when it comes springtime. The other thing that you can do is you can buy some fuel additive. Now we sell that down here at Carlsbad Small Engine. We have several different types. We've got Briggs & Stratton fuel additives, we have Seafoam, and there's several different varieties, and also in different bulk sizes, from small 2 gallons all the way up to, at a gallon. But what you need to do is you need to come down and buy some. Tell us what you're using it for, and you need to add it to all your gas. Not just for your lawnmower, but for your hedgers, your edgers, your mowers, your blowers, your pumps, your compressors, your generators. You should add some to the old car that you have sitting out back so that the gas doesn't go bad. If that gas goes bad, it doesn't matter if you have a $50,000 car or you paid $50 at the garage sale. That carburetor is going to look like this. So I hope that helps you a little bit. The other thing that you can do on motorcycles. Now this is your typical 250cc motorcycle carburetor. Now this one is brand new. You'll notice right here on the bowl, this bowl you have to actually take the nut off to drain the bowl, and on most motorcycles that you'll see out there, you'll see this brass screw at the bottom of the bowl. What does that brass screw do at the bottom of the bowl? Well, when you unscrew that screw, it lets the gas flow from the bottom of the bowl down this tube. Same principle. Get the gas out of the equipment that's going to be sitting for a long time, or what's going to happen is that gas is going to go bad. Turn the little screw, let the gas run out. When the gas stops running, well, all the gas is out of the carburetor. One thing you need to realize though, on most motorcycles, go-karts, and other ATVs, outdoor equipment like that, you're going to have some sort of cutoff valve. It usually looks like this. It has on, off. It may be on, reserve tank, and to the side is off. Now these fuel cutoff valves, first turn off the fuel in the fuel cutoff valve. Drain the bowl on the bottom of your carburetor, and you pretty much have effectively removed the gas from your fuel system. Start the engine, run it until the engine dies and the gas is out. The other thing that you can do, if you notice here, you gotta get a little closer on this one too, because on the bottom of most fuel cutoff valves, you'll see this little screw right here. Take that off, and what you'll see is that's just simply a sediment collector. If you get any goo in your tank, as it's flowing through this cutoff valve, hopefully that dirt and debris will end up inside this fuel cutoff. Clean it out, make sure it's clean, screw it back in. What you'll notice is there's a small rubber grommet in the bottom, and get it seated so it doesn't leak, and you're back in business. So as you can see, what I have right here is a small selection of carburetors. A motorcycle carburetor, some Tecumseh carburetors, some Briggs & Stratton carburetors, some Pulse Jet carburetor, and I've got an old Craftsman Tecumseh carburetor here. Every one of these came off a piece of equipment that's come in this shop. No two are alike. So when you come in, I still need that make, model, and type of the engine that you are worried about. Not necessarily that it's a Craftsman mower. I can look it up that way if you give me the Craftsman model number, the 917.12345 number. But really what I need is the model number that is on the engine. Let me show you where that's at. Now as you can see, there's a lot of equipment back here in the yard getting ready to work on. We've got go-karts, lawnmowers, generators, little razors. We've got just about everything you can imagine. But come on up here. What you're going to find is that regardless of what type of equipment you have, what you're going to see is that the engine has a specific engine number. So on this Briggs & Stratton, this is a 7.75 foot-pound torque professional series Briggs & Stratton. If you came and told me that, I probably wouldn't be able to look up your carburetor. What we need is this. Right above the muffler, on the overhead valves, or on the blower housing, you're going to see a series of numbers. These series of numbers is the make, model, type, and code. Take a picture of it with your smartphone, bring it in, show it to us, or write it down, because those numbers are very important, and it tells us everything that's on that piece of equipment, and I'll be able to get the right carburetor at the right time for you every time. Okay, so I told you I was going to talk to you about clutches. Now on most of your motorcycles, the older style, they have what's called a centrifugal clutch. Now this is a centrifugal clutch, a brand new one out of the box. This portion goes onto the engine. It will free spin, if you notice. You know why that is? Because inside of this are about 3 brake pads. And as this spins, what it's going to do, these brake pads right here are going to come outward, and it's going to push up against the metal on the outside of the casing. So imagine this thing spinning as fast as it can on your engine, just like that. What's going to happen is those brake shoes are going to push outward, and when they push outward, all of a sudden it's not going to free spin here. The whole thing is going to spin. In fact, I have one of these over on a motorcycle that I'm going to show you. Hey Jamie, would you mind bringing that over to us? Now this, you know what? There's something I want to tell you. I want to introduce Jamie. You guys haven't seen him yet. Jamie is one of our mechanics here at Carlsbad Small Engine, and he speaks Spanish.
Sí, buenas tardes. Mucho gusto en conocer todos aquí de Carlsbad, New Mexico. Trabajamos Carlsbad Small Engine. Todas las preguntas, todo lo que tienen, aquí nos pueden visitar todos los días. Después de las 2, estoy aquí después de las 2 de la tarde para servirles y cualquier pregunta tienen por los cortes de césped. Gracias.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. Oh, you know what? We've also got Kevin back here. Say hi, Kevin.
Hey, Carlsbad. Bring in your broken equipment. We will fix it for you.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right.
So anyway, let me tell you some more about this clutch. Come up here a little bit closer, and you have to get right up on this, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This clutch is actually this clutch right here on the motorcycle. Now, when you're looking down on this piece of equipment, what you're going to see is that the clutch is directly connected to the engine. So when I turn the clutch, the wheel turns. If you put one of these clutches on too big an engine, what's going to happen is those brake shoes won't be able to grip the outside housing, and the engine will force it past. It's almost like driving around in your car with the emergency brake on. The engine in your car has more power than the emergency brakes, and so therefore the wheels turn. Well, you can force it past. If you ever see that your clutch turns bright red, if you find that you're slipping, it doesn't seem to be catching, what's probably happened is the little brake shoes that are inside your clutch here have broken loose or are wearing to the point where it's not gripping anymore, and it's time to replace the clutch. Now, clutches come in different sizes and different teeth. You have 41 tooth clutches, you have 35 tooth clutches. You also have different size shafts. The best thing to do is to take the old clutch off. Now you can see this old clutch here. It's a pretty simple process. What you're going to do is you're going to remove all of this housing and protectant coverage around it. Right here, you'll see that there's an Allen key. You're going to remove that key. That key is located right here on your clutch. Pull that out. That's what holds the clutch onto the engine. So this is the output shaft off of your engine. The clutch, it slides in there like that, and that little key goes through and it holds it on so that as the engine spins, it'll spin it fast enough to throw those bearings out. As you can see, this one has been exposed to weather and outside, and it's gotten kind of nasty. When this runs, it tends to slip, especially if there's a lot of weight, and it won't go forward. So good maintenance on this. Keep this out of the weather so it doesn't rust on the inside and the outside. You don't want to have greases and oils and other materials get inside, because that grease and oil and other materials, well, what it'll do is it'll allow it to slip as well. And it's real easy to replace. If you notice that these teeth are starting to get worn, that's because the chain has slipped around the teeth. Now, some things you can do, just like on your bicycle, right here on the chains, go ahead and lube that with some oil so that it'll go round smoother, it has the flexibility, and it won't tend to slip when it gets to hard spots. If you take care of your clutch, it should last for a long time. The other thing is, most of this equipment, as you can see, is designed for a kid. You know, what's a kid weigh? 50, 60, 70 pounds? If you're 255 pounds, don't be riding around on your kid's motorcycle that's that's rated for about 60 pounds, you will burn that clutch up and do more damage. You'll bend the frame, you'll bend the axle, you'll mess up the bearings. That's the number one reason that clutches go bad, is because dads want to play too, and they don't belong on the equipment. So keep the right people on the right equipment. Now, if you want one for yourself, I want you to look up here. It's the right piece of equipment for you. That's a 250cc go-kart. You know what? I'll be delighted to sell you one. So come on down here to Carlsbad Small Engine with your little stuff for your kids, but then also I want you to come down here and get some big stuff for yourself. So what I want to do is talk to you a little bit about trimmers. Now, trimmers are unique because they come in two styles. The first style is a curved shaft trimmer, and the second style is a straight shaft trimmer. Now, a curved shaft trimmer are generally smaller and lighter. When you're looking at it, it has a solid cable that runs all the way from the engine to the head, but it does not have a gearbox in the front at all. When you're trimming, you're not able to really get up underneath things very good. If you notice here what I'm trying to do, I can't really get it up into close areas. A straight shaft trimmer is a little bit different. A straight shaft trimmer has a geared head, which means there's a solid steel shaft that runs from one end of the trimmer to the other. And then it goes through a gear right here at the end, and that's what allows the head to spin. With a straight shaft trimmer, if you've got a lot of bushes, if you have a lot of equipment like that and stuff that you're trying to get around, you can get the head right up into those spots underneath your bushes, around your trees, and in different areas a lot easier. The other thing that you can do with the straight shaft trimmer that you can't do with a curved shaft trimmer is take a look at this. If you turn it sideways, you can edge the side of your driveways and really cut it into a straight line. If you notice on a curved shaft trimmer, you can't do a straight line really easy, and it tends to flick back at you. But on a straight shaft trimmer, one, it's a little bit further away from you, and two, you can turn it sideways and do an edge. Now, all of my trimmers here at Carlsbad Small Engine are Echoes. Now, Echoes come with a 5-year warranty, which is really nice, because if you have a problem with it, you can always bring it back to us, because we are the warranty service center. So you bring your Echo back to us, it's got a 5-year warranty. They're competitively priced, but they're so much easier to start. And also, right now, we're having a sale. So come on down, pick yourself up either a straight shaft or a curved shaft trimmer, and take advantage of the sale that we're having here at the store. So come on down to Carlsbad Small Engine. We still have a good selection of lawnmowers for the summertime. We've got the trimmers that I showed you. We've got the go-karts. We've got the utility vehicles. But most of all, we have the expertise to help you maintain your lawn garden equipment, your ATVs, your hedgers, your edgers, your mowers, your blowers, your pumps, your compressors, all right here at Carlsbad Small Engine. The whole show, you've seen the phone number. Write it down. Call us for pickup and delivery. We want your business. Come on down and see us on Church Street. Now come visit us also at askthemowerguy.com. There I posted over 20 videos, a blog about small engine repair, and lots of information on how to get a hold of us, get a hold of parts, and also just good information about how to set up a preventive maintenance program for your lawn and garden equipment. That's askthemowerguy.com.